if you are, Roshane, I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, most of you do know that I'm pretty brand loyal to Team Adidas. Okay, when the University of Miami switched over to get sponsored by Adidas, so did I. Okay, I'm pretty loyal. I got loyalty. Anyway, I'm pretty loyal to Team Adidas, but in honor of Kung Fu Kenny, I broke out the red Cortezes just for old K-Dot. So it's been a good week. My goodness, some fantastic music's come out. I have a new niece. Audrey Grace. I think she's sleeping through this right now. Fantastic. My sister PJ is a champion. She did not do a natural birth like Pastor Kristen Wilkerson. She used the medication. She used all of God's doctor's wisdom and everything like that. So she gave birth to a beautiful baby girl last Wednesday, and we celebrated this past weekend the resurrection. Come on, who had a good Easter Sunday? It's been a great week. I don't know about how your week has gone. I've had a really fantastic supercalifragilisticexpialidocious week. And so I am excited. I have a word that God's really been putting in my heart the last week or so. And so I want to preach to you out of Mark chapter 3. Mark chapter 3, beginning in verse 1. And I want to give you a little bit of context. We're in this season where we're studying through the Gospel of Mark. The Gospel of Mark, it's got 16 chapters, and we're going to go over the next 12 weeks. We're going to go through all of these chapters, and if you're doing any sort of math just now, you realize 16 chapters rather, 12 weeks. We won't necessarily get to cover every chapter, but we're going to really try and get some of the good passages, some of those really important passages, and maybe some of those passages that get skipped over, and we're going to try and unfold those and study those together. So I really encourage you, bring a Bible to church. Anybody got like a real Bible with them right now? Leather, hardback. Some of y'all got your phones. Kilton, I've never seen you with a Bible. I don't know that you own one. Kilton's gonna steal one next time he goes to a hotel. Anyway, I'm preaching out on Mark 3, and this book is a fantastic book. I love it. It's written by Mark, but scholars would tell you, here's some fun facts as we're studying through this. Scholars would tell you that Mark probably was not an eyewitness to Jesus' life and ministry, but he was very, very close. He traveled. He was a companion of Peter. So many scholars would tell you that a lot of Mark's story, a lot of his narrative comes from Peter, comes from his preaching, comes from Peter's teaching on Jesus and his recollection of his experience with Jesus. And Mark writes this. It's the earliest written recorded gospel. So it's the first one. It's probably pretty important. We want to study through it. It's really something that formed a lot of the early church. And so I think as we study through this, we're going to get some wisdom. We're going to get some revelation. God's going to speak to us. Do you believe that tonight, Rendezvous? God's going to speak to you tonight? I believe that as well. I've stalled long enough. If you are still not at Mark 3, turn your attention to the screens. We'll help you out. Mark 3, beginning in verse 1, it says this. Another time, Jesus went into the synagogue, and a man with a shriveled hand was there. Some of them, meaning the Pharisees, some of them were looking for a reason to accuse Jesus. So they watched him closely to see if he would heal him on the Sabbath. Go ahead and underline that. Highlight that. Verse 3 says, Jesus said to the man with the shriveled hand, stand up in front of everyone. Then Jesus asked them, which is lawful on the Sabbath, to do good or to do evil, to save life or to kill? But they remained silent. He looked around at them in anger and deeply distressed. Underline those words, anger and deeply distressed at their stubborn hearts. He said to the man, stretch out your hand. Stretch out your hand. He stretched it out, and his hand was completely restored. Then the Pharisees went out and began to plot with the Herodians, someone say Herodians, how they might kill Jesus. Let's pray. Jesus, we thank you so much for your word. God, we ask that you would speak to us tonight. God, these brief verses that we have for us, I pray that you would give us revelation. I pray that you would open our hearts, minds, eyes, and ears to understand, to see what you have for us. God, I pray that we would see you in a new light. God, give us revelation, Jesus. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Everyone said, come on, everyone said. If you're excited to be in church, give Jesus just one more shout of praise, just a little bit, a little bit. My goodness, my goodness. I am ecstatic. I am so pumped. It's been such a fantastic week. Not only do one of my favorite artists release a new album, not only do I have a new niece, but my fantastic, amazing wife, Holly Jo, she's scheduled for us to go to the chiropractor. Okay? Follow me here. Now, see, I don't really got like chiropractor money. Like I'm just in my life, I don't got that kind of money to do that all the time. So I was pretty pumped. She said, we're going to the chiropractor. You're going to get an adjustment. I said, okay, this is fantastic. I am excited for this. You know, because I've had some issues, some lower back pain, you know, like it's tough getting old, you know, and some issues with, you know, like getting stiff. You've been there? You like when you're so out of shape that you're sore from doing nothing all day? That's me. That's why I get sore over. 25 years old, I've got glasses, balding, and I get sore from sitting too often. Pray for me. So we recently, so we did this chiropractor thing, and this really came out of this time that we went in the beginning of March. Holly and I, we celebrated our anniversary, and so we decided, okay, let's do something fun. Let's stay local. What can we do? Busy season. We can't really go out of town, do anything like that. Also, it's only year 3. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like you save the big stuff for, like, year 5 and 10. You know what I'm saying? We didn't go to, like, London, okay? We haven't made it that far yet, guys. So let's stay in our lane, okay? So we went on Groupon, okay? That's what I feel like year 3 is. I feel like year 3 is Groupon year. I said I don't got chiropractor money. You think I got full price money for an excursion or an adventure? Come on. So we go on Groupon, and Holly said, here's what we can do. We live in a nice condo. We've got a pool. We've got things like that. We don't need to go to a hotel. Why don't we do this, though? Why don't we go get massages? And I said, okay, fantastic. I'm excited for this. Anyone else? Anyone ever gone and gotten like a professional massage before? It could go either way. You could have a fantastic experience or a horrible experience. I feel like there's not a lot of in between. There's not a lot of middle ground when you get a massage. Okay, it's either great or awful. You're never going there again. Like you're more stressed out afterwards than when you showed up there. You know what I'm talking about? So we go on Groupon. Holly finds this great deal for this 90-minute couples full body massage and facial, and it's just so romantic. The pictures. How many of you know? Wow, the pictures on Groupon, I don't care what it is. It's like McDonald's, like with their photos, their commercials, like those cheeseburgers and fries look amazing. And then you open up your bag, you're like, what is this? It's like I'm the man with the shriveled french fries. That's who I am right now. This is ridiculous. You need to change the oil or something. This is terrible. The pictures look good. So Holly's showing me the pictures for this one place. And it's like a massage place that's like at a hotel, right? So we go, we get there, we park. They don't have valet parking. You have to like park across the street. That's not in the information. So I park across the street, Frogger it across US 1 to get, or Biscayne Boulevard rather, to get back to the hotel. So I was like, that was a little stressful, but okay, it's fine, no big deal. We get there, we're literally the first people there. They're not ready for us. They are not prepared. We're the first in line. They're like screaming. This poor girl, she's like, oh, you're here on time. Like, take a seat. Okay, would you like some coffee? Like, you're sitting outside in 80-degree weather. You want some hot coffee? Fantastic. Okay, grab you some coffee. And our massage, again, we are the first people there. And our massage therapist is not there. He's running late. He's stuck in traffic. So they try, she's stalling. She's trying to see, like, here, would you like some lemon water? I'm like, yo, I would like a discount. Like, I know we already got a discount on a group, but I like, time is money. We're sitting there, and so eventually, the lady that's hosting us walks up with this awesome guy. He's like, you can tell he's so excited about life. He's so sorry, but he's so excited. And his name is Mr. Johnny. And Mr. Johnny, here's something you need to know about him. This is important information. Mr. Johnny is Cuban. And I tell you that because I love Cuban people, especially like Cuban guys. They're like so excited about being Cuban. Like they don't do anything like halfway. Like they're just so excited. Natalie's Captivia's over here laughing. She knows what I'm talking about. Cuban people are great. They're so expressive. He comes walking up, literally. he comes walking up and he goes, he walks up and he goes, ay, ay, ay. I don't know what to do to that. Like, I don't know how to, do it back. It's not the same. I don't know. He's like, ay, ay, ay. You're here for the massage? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I am so sorry. I was late. Okay, pause. My Cuban accent is not good. We all know it. We all hear it. Let's keep moving past it, okay? And he's like, you and you are going to have such a good time. My name is Mr. Johnny. I'm here to take care of you, okay? Okay? You have your robe, okay? Ay, ay, ay. He's like, he apologizes for being late. It's like, right this way. He like explains something. He's telling Holly something. He's like, okay, so basically how this works is they've got one massage therapist, that's Mr. Johnny, and then they've got like the person who does the facial thing, and you're in the same room, but you can only do like one at a time. So I go first, and I'm doing like the facial thing. This lady is digging into my scalp with needles. Like Holly did not tell me about this. I've never had this happen before. I'm like, she's like filing my skin down with like sandpaper. I'm like, this is not how I planned my Saturday. And like the whole time, it was making me so mad. The whole time I'm there getting my facial, Holly's like over there, like she's like 5 feet away from me, but she's like laughing, like she's like face down in the thing, right? You know, she's like face down, and she's like laughing, and Mr. Johnny's over there. He's like making jokes and stuff. He's like talking with her. He's like, okay. You're going to have your massage on your shoulder? Okay. I'm like, what are y'all talking? And Holly's like laughing. I'm like, what are you guys watching videos over there? Like, what's going on? What's with the chatter? I thought, silence. What do you have to talk about right now? My goodness. Easy there, Senor Johnny. But I couldn't like stay mad at him because he kept calling me Poppy, and I loved that. I was like, Poppy. I'm like, Holly, you hear that? Let's adopt that into our vocabulary. That feels cool. It's like, that's amazing. This is way better than like dude or sir or man. I'm like, I'll take Poppy. Poppy does his massage, and so we switch. Holly she goes over to the lady with the needles that terrorizes your face, and I lay down, and Mr. Johnny's like, okay, Poppy. He goes, did you take your shorts off, but not all the way? Okay. I'm like, what is happening right now? Feel a little uncomfortable. I did not know about this. I kept my shorts on. This isn't Europe. My goodness. And so he's giving me this massage. It's like awesome, fantastic, like amazing. Like, but I've got this like kind of pain right in my like left shoulder. I've kind of had it since I was like high school, and so I've got this pain in my shoulder, and so he's just doing the massage. I kind of like tuned out the fact that I think he was kind of flirting with Holly when she was having her time, and like I was just okay. This is fantastic. They got the essential oils and like the weird Zen music going. This is so comfortable. Towards the end of it, all of a sudden, he stops like giving me a massage, and then all of a sudden I hear, Poppy, like right in my ear. And I'm like, yes. In my ear, he goes, you have a lot of stress in your back. You are a strong young man, Poppy. You should not have this much stress. Like, this is uncomfortable. Time out. I'm done. All right. Let's get out of here. Groupon, this is not getting a 5-star rating. Not at all. I'm stressed. And after Senior Johnny whispered sweet nothings in my ear, and we got done, and we got dressed, he said, he goes, I noticed, you seem pretty tense, pretty tight. How often throughout the course of your day do you stand up and stretch? How often do you stand up and stretch? I said, not very often. I sit, at a computer. I do a lot of stuff like meetings and work on my computer. And I said, I don't really stand up. And he goes, okay, how often do you kind of stretch? Do you stretch out like your muscles? Do you stretch out? And I go, no, I am like the least flexible person you've ever met. Like, this is me trying right here. Like, this is all I got. I just I'm not very flexible. He goes, so, okay, you need to really know. You need to really incorporate into your life. You need to stand up and stretch out. In your life, you want to be healthy. You want to live a long life. You need to stand up. You need to stretch out. If you're taking notes, I want you to title this. This is the title of this talk tonight. Stand up, stretch out. I think this is not just something that is applicable for the health of your spine and your C4 vertebrae and your flexibility. I think there's something spiritual. I think there's something gospel truth. I think we see this idea, stand up and stretch out in this passage. With this man here, this is an interesting story. This is an interesting miracle account throughout the Gospels. If you read through, you really look at it, I think it's so fascinating. Jesus, he says he walks into the synagogue, sees this man. This man, there's no indication that he approaches Jesus. He sees this man. The Pharisees see Jesus, see this man. They're looking to see if he's going to heal this man. But this is so important that we catch. They're not so much concerned whether or not Jesus is going to heal him as they are, is he going to heal them on this day, which happens to be the Sabbath? See, friends, this is so important as you read through the Gospels, not just Mark, that you understand the big issue, the big problem that the religious leaders and the authorities of the day, the big problem that they had with Jesus was not so much his preaching or his messages or his cool stories or the fact that he was healing people, the fact that he was casting out demons. The issue that they had, the problem that they had with Jesus is that he would do these things sometimes on their day. See, friends, you need to understand, why is this so important to us? This is important because it depicts this idea, depicts this thing that we need to get, that people do not care, they will not care about what you believe as long as it doesn't affect them, as long as you keep it to yourself. We live in a time, in a world, in an era, the information age, we have so much information. We live in this time, we live in this world, I like to call it toleration nation. Really, the world that we live in, I think you could call it toleration nation. We talk about tolerance, and hear me. Don't pay attention. I don't want you to take me out of context. I'm not advocating for intolerance. Okay, I'm not advocating for ignorance. I think there's plenty of intolerant, ignorant people. I think there's plenty of tolerant, ignorant people. I think there's plenty of ignorant, intolerant. It's not good. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm advocating for. But I just think I'm a little concerned when we elevate tolerance to the highest ideal that is human life. That if we could just all be tolerant of each other. That is living. That we have reached the pinnacle of human civilization. If we can just tolerate each other. Friends, let me tell you, if you've ever been in a relationship, you're not just trying to tolerate each other. If you're just tolerating each other, you won't tolerate each other for very long. You will go the other way quickly. Tolerance, it's good. It's not terrible, but I think it's incomplete. I don't think it's quite the ideal that we should be striving for. I don't think Jesus calls us to be tolerant. See, I don't think the thing that we should strive for as a civilization is tolerance. I think it's love. Jesus does not say, they will know you're my disciples by how you tolerate one another. He says, they'll know you're my disciples by how you love. Jesus doesn't pray, and he doesn't say, God, I pray that they would be tolerant of one another as I tolerate them. No. He prays, he says, God, I pray that they would be unified in love. As you have loved me and I have loved them, I pray that that's how they would be known, in unity. Not just tolerating, we're over here, and as long as we're over here and you're over there and they're over there, we just stayed all together. We just tolerate each other. We just coexist. We just operate in the same space and we just don't bother each other. Then that's fine. Friends, the Bible doesn't say, for God so tolerated the world that he gave his only son. It's for God so loved the world. Friends, tolerance, it's okay, it's all right, but I think we should be striving for love. Love one another. we shouldn't just be trying to tolerate each other. Because tolerance, friends, honestly, it's really pretty easy. Honestly, tolerance, it seems like it's this selfless thing, but it's really kind of selfish. It's really just, hey, you don't tell me how I should live my life. I won't tell you how you should live your life. Just, hey, be tolerant. Just, hey, whoa, tolerate me. Tolerate. It's not like, what are we talking about? Tolerance doesn't really require that much. Love, friends, on the other hand, it requires something. You've ever been in love? Love isn't this sentimental, easy, mushy thing. Love is messy. Love is really hard. Love requires you to have some courage. Love requires you to care for people. Love requires you to confront one another. To be tolerant, that doesn't require any courage. It doesn't require you to care, to be invested emotionally. It doesn't require you to confront one another. It just requires you to stay out of each other's business. Friends, I don't think that we are called to tolerance. I think we're called to be people of love. Because really, all it takes to tolerate something is just to be okay with some mild, infrequent annoyance. As long as it really doesn't affect your life, as long as it really doesn't cause you to change how you live your life on a daily basis, you could tolerate that, right? It's the things that you have to be confronted with daily, moment by moment. Those are the things you're like, whoa, hey, I'm not going to tolerate this. I'm not going to stand for this. Those are the things we get all fired up about, right? This is the picture that we have here. The Pharisees, they see this man, and they see he's got a shriveled up hand. It's just this, it's not like it's life-threatening. It's like this, there's this big issue at hand. They could tolerate that. It's not that big of a deal. This is the Sabbath. And had Jesus decided to heal him on a day other than the Sabbath, they would have tolerated that too. Because it wouldn't have imposed on their way of doing things. Because for the Jewish people, the Pharisees, they were the fundamentalists. They were the real religious folks. We got to give them a bad rap. They were the people really just trying to be honest with the scriptures, trying to live out the scriptures, trying to take God at his word. But Jesus, he catches them. He says, you missed the whole point. You got so focused on your details, so focused on when it's okay, when it's not okay, how severe the situation is, when you can move on, when you can look the other way. You've gotten so caught up in maintaining your little system that you have failed to operate in the manner that God has called us to, the real letter of the law when it comes to the Sabbath. That's what he says. Is it lawful to do good or bad? Is it lawful to save a life or to kill it? And Jesus, he finds himself in this moment where as he looks at this man, he cannot tolerate to see him going through this. He cannot tolerate to see him standing there in the synagogue, not being helped. Jesus says, I can't tolerate this. And he operates in courage. He operates in care towards this man. So much so that he doesn't just want to tolerate the situation, but he gets involved and he confronts the issue. Friends, as the church, as men and women that follow after Jesus, we have to operate with courage and care. Not just trying to tolerate each other, not just trying to get by, but having the courage and the care to confront things. To say, this is going to be real messy. This is going to cause some awkward conversation. There's going to be some tension here. But I care enough, and I have enough boldness and conviction and courage not to not let you go on with your life like this. I care about you. I want to confront you. It's not about I'm right, you're wrong, I've got it together, you don't. It's just that I don't have it all together, and I see that you don't have it all together, so hey, let's just talk about this. Let's figure it out. But we tolerate the things that don't really affect our lives. Like the other day, I was watching TV. And a little backstory here. So 2 years ago when we moved to Miami, we got the condo that we stay at requires that you use a certain cable Wi-Fi internet provider. I'm not going to say which cable internet Wi-Fi provider is because I don't want to offend anybody. And especially if anyone here works at Dish, I don't want you to leave here upset that we're talking about you. But this cable company who shall remain nameless, I've had some issues with them, and And so, but they send us this box. So you first get there, you have to use it. So they send you the box, right? And they send you the remotes. And I don't know about you, but I hate like when you go over someone's house and they have like 3 or 4 different remotes. Like one remote turns the TV on, the other remote changes the channels, the other remote does the volume, the other remote orders pizza. It's like, what are we doing right now? I can't figure it out. I feel like I launched like nuclear codes, but I didn't turn the TV on. Like, I don't know. I pressed so many buttons. It's like, the second to the bottom red one on the right. No, okay, I'm just not going to watch TV. Sorry, I'm never staying at this Airbnb again. I don't like having all these remotes. So we first moved in and got the boxes. I immediately set it up, and I did the code where you can program it all onto the one remote. So I did that, and a couple months went by, and I realized we still had the original remote to the television. And I was like, what do we have this for? We don't need this. I have the one remote. This is just clutter. I threw it away. That's going to come back to bite me as we continue the story. So I threw the remote away. And for the better part of a year, my life went on as it went. I watched sports. I watched some History Channel. I watched some Netflix. My life was fantastic. A couple weeks ago, my life started crumbling because here's what happened. I was watching TV, and all of a sudden, I'm going through the guide. I'm trying to find a playoff game. I'm trying to find something. I can't remember what it was. Going through the guide, and then all of a sudden, something kind of happens. I click something. I press something, and the TV changes its aspect ratio, whatever that is. That became a cuss word in my life for about 7 days. Aspect ratio changed from normal to 4:3. Now, I've never had a beef with a dimension, but believe you me, I hate 4:3. This thing ruined so I'm pressing this and it switches to 4:3. 4:3, it just creates it's like a little square. And then if you have like kind of a normal like plasma TV, like it has the bars on the side. And I was like, whoa, what did I do? And so I'm trying to go through it. I'm pressing. I start Googling, trying to figure things out. I called Dish, see if I can figure it out. I called the television company. And then, I called the TV company first. They then directed me to Dish because it was a Dish remote. I'm talking to Dish. I'm on the phone with this guy for like 45 minutes. I think I kind of figure it out, kind of fix it. Later that night, I get home. I go to watch Netflix. Netflix, it's still 4:3. I stay up till 2:30 in the morning surfing through like tech web forums, trying to figure out how to reset my television back to normal. I was in the deep web. Like if I disappear, it's because some like guys in black suits came and took me out of my home, put me in a black bag, and like I disappeared because I was getting into some stuff, okay? I saw some things. Okay? Don't get me started on the moon landing. Anyway, so I saw something. I couldn't find all the stuff I found. I could not find how to change the television back. And I ultimately found out through another series of phone calls to Dish and the TV company. They tell me that the only way to change the television, the aspect ratio on the television, not the cable, but the television, is with the original remote. So I go, totally, I hear what you're saying. What I'm just telling you is, I changed it without the original remote. So you're telling me that what I did was impossible. They're like, yes, sir, that's what we're telling you. I was like, so you're not telling me how I can fix this with the remote that I changed it in the first place? No, you have to have an original remote. Well, guess what? Emerson doesn't sell original remotes at Walmart. I'm an impatient person. I want this fixed right away. So I go to Walmart, though, and I think I know better. I buy a universal remote, that doesn't work. Have to take that back. I ultimately break down, have to order a brand new remote. Spend $14.99 plus shipping and handling. Finally gets, after a week, I didn't even let Holly watch television. I said, babe, you got to watch on your phone or computer. I just can't handle it. I can't do it. I just can't, the bars on the side, I can't do it. What is this? This is 2017, I'm a grown man, I'm not gonna watch in 4:3. I pay for normal, I'm not settling for 4:3. You gotta stand for something, guys. So we get the remote, I put the batteries in, there is a button on the remote that says aspect ratio. I click it 3 times, it's fixed. Fantastic. My goodness, I feel like Indiana Jones. Like I had just got the ark. I just conquered everything. And I was so frustrated because I'm like, I just spent $14.99 for this remote, and that's all I'll ever need it for, just right then. And I wanted to be upset, but the overwhelming joy of fixing this, I couldn't be upset. I was just like, yes, there was no price, although I guess it was $14.99, to put on that feeling. Yes, it's fixed. My life is whole and complete. Thank you, Jesus. He's on the throne. I was so upset. I was so frustrated. I was losing sleep because I could not tolerate my TV's aspect ratio. Friends, I wonder how many more important and significant, impactful things we tolerate in our life that have an effect on our life, or the life of those around us, or the life of people living in this world as fellow human beings, that we tolerate because we say, it doesn't really affect me. It doesn't really change the way I have to live my life. It doesn't really bother me, so I can tolerate it. Friends, let's be moved by compassion. Let's have some courage. Let's have some care for one another. To not just tolerate, but to have some really robust, difficult, messy conversations because we love one another too much to see each other go down paths of destruction. Jesus, you see this in our story in Mark 3, verse 4, it says, so Jesus asked them, which is lawful on the Sabbath, to do good or to do evil, to save life or to kill. It says, but they remained silent. See, they remained silent, not because they didn't have an answer. Actually, scholars would tell you they had an answer. They would have been able to respond to this rhetorical technique that Jesus is using. He's trying to bait them into. They would have had this answer. They could have said to him, well, teacher, well, Jesus, yeah, well, I mean, you're able to save life on the Sabbath. We do have some laws, some stipulations, if it's severe enough, but they would have all agreed that this man's situation was not life-threatening. He just was a little shriveled. So they remained silent because instead of actually caring, instead of actually getting involved, putting some skin in the game, they said, let's just tolerate it. Let's just not get involved. And Jesus, he sees this. He looks around at them. And in anger and deeply distressed at their stubborn hearts, at their hard hearts, at their complacent, chilled out, tolerating hearts, he gets angry. He gets distressed because he cares enough. He's concerned enough not to just tolerate it. Friends, if we're going to see people's lives change, we're going to see our family members come to Jesus, we have to have some courage, we got to have some care, and we got to be able to confront those things in grace, in truth, and in love. Not trying to prove a point or win an argument, get an apologetic, no. But to see their life go from death to life, from bad to good. Says he was so angered and distressed, he cared enough not to just tolerate. And because he cared and he operated in love, it says the man's hand was completely restored. Completely restored. Friends, I think we really need to ask ourselves this. I want you to write this down. I want this to be really clear. I've got some different notes for us to jot down, to ask ourselves. Here's this thing I want us to ask us this over the next week or so. As you meditate on this, ask yourself this. Will you have the courage and care to confront, or will you be too timid and just tolerate? Will you have the courage and care to confront, or will you be too timid and just tolerate? See, what's so ironic is as we continue to read on, it says that after this, the Pharisees, they gathered together with this other group of people, not so well known, the Herodians, right? Someone say Herodians. So they gather with the Herodians. And what's so ironic about this is they create this little alliance. But if you were to study this, you were to do some research into this. The Pharisees and the Herodians were on polar opposite sides of the political social spectrum. They didn't like each other. They didn't have common interests. The Pharisees would have been very pro-Israel. They would have been operating under the letter of the law. They would have a problem with the Herodians, which would have been followers of Herod Antipas. And they would have been very pro-Roman, the Roman government, which gave Herod his authority. So they were on opposite ends of the spectrum, but they tolerated each other. They set aside their differences because Jesus, friends, was bad for business. Jesus would not tolerate their injustice, would not tolerate their self-righteousness, would not tolerate their behavior, their social structure. of haves and have-nots. And Jesus wouldn't tolerate them, so then therefore they could not tolerate Jesus because he was bad for business. And it was beginning to affect the way that they lived their lives. Friends, I wonder if there's anything about our lives that causes people who are operating unjustly, who are operating in an ungodly way. Is there anything about our lives that causes them to look at us and say, I got a problem with how kind that person is? My goodness, they're just being nice to everybody. Man, I got a problem with how she's just so generous. What's up with that? Throwing off the whole economics. Is there anything about our lives that causes people to reevaluate and to have an issue with the way we live our lives? Friends, the world can cope, the world could tolerate with a bunch of Christians who allowed the hope of the gospel to just stay this warm sentimentality and spirituality. Hey, as long as you just keep all that Jesus stuff to yourself, that's okay. The world could tolerate that. The world could cope with that. Friends, the world cannot cope. The world cannot tolerate a people who are on fire with the Holy Ghost, who know that Jesus is the resurrection and the life. And he has something to say about the way that people live in this world. It cannot just remain this individual personal spirituality. I love what Pastor Jonathan said, connecting. That's what this is about. This isn't just about you and Jesus. It's about you and Jesus. Love God. Then what else did Jesus say? Love God and love others. Love people. It's not just about me and you, but when you have a revelation of who I am, you'll get it. And how you have a revelation of how I love you, you'll love other people. Jesus, he had this understanding that he had to operate in not tolerance, but love. And he sees this man. Like I said, this is an interesting story. I think it's so fascinating that this man, he wasn't dying. There's plenty of miracle stories you see where blind men, they run and chase after Jesus. They yell after Jesus. They call out to Jesus. There's people weeping and wailing and just so conflicted. Jesus, save me. Jesus, heal me. Jesus, open my eyes. Mark gives us no indication that this man showed up to the synagogue that day to see Jesus or to be healed. This man, he happens to be there. And he's not this man whose life is hanging in the balance. He's not facing some life-threatening issue. He's just living a little less than. He's got this hand that isn't whole. It isn't fully extended. It's just a little less than he would want. It's just a little shriveled. It's not life or death, just shriveled. And I wonder today. If so many of us come to church and we're not facing life or death issues, and I think I have a little quote here I want us to consider as well, where it's not, we come to church and you're not just facing life-threatening issues, just less than, just something less than. And I wonder if because it's not life-threatening, it's just less than, I wonder if we don't even bother bringing it to Jesus. Read our story. Look at our text. The man, he doesn't approach Jesus. He's minding his own business. He might have gotten so used to the fact that he was living less than he was created to. Not about to lose his life. Nothing terrible, but just less than. And he had maybe grown to tolerate it. He wasn't really conflicted about it. He was just complacent. I wonder today if we operate sometimes in a false humility, thinking, I'm not really going through, I don't have, my world isn't falling apart. I'm not really facing cancer. There's no one's really got a drug issue. There's nothing really bad going on in my life. I think so often we give these messages and we talk about people really, facing drug addiction and heroin and on the streets. And if we're honest, maybe that's some of our stories, but most of us, if you're like me at all, I come into church and more often than not, I'm not facing some life-threatening issue. I'm just facing some less than. I'm just not feeling like great. I'm just a little less than great. Just a little shriveled in some areas of my life. And I think sometimes we think we're being humble. We think we're sitting there and saying, okay, I'm just going to be humble. Sit down. I'm not going to bring this to Jesus. Because it's really just not, it's not that big of a deal. There's people, in Africa starving, and there's, the diseases and Ebola and AIDS, and this isn't life-threatening. It's just a little less than. And so I don't even want to go bother him. I don't want to, he's got, as if he is not able to heal and help the people facing the life-threatening issues and your little less than issues. We sometimes parade around this like self-righteousness, this false humility, which is really just pride, that assumes that we only need Jesus for the big stuff, the stuff that we can't do on our own. And all the less than, I can get by without that. We're not conflicted, we're just complacent. I wonder tonight if, as we're saying, I want to have some faith. People say, I want to operate in faith. I wonder if maybe you're not facing conflict, really just frustrated, really going through it, really in the midst of it. I think more often than not, we're facing complacency. Pastor Terrence mentioned this last week. Complacency, I think, is a far bigger killer in marriages, in careers, in dreams, in calling. Complacency is when you stay in a certain state, stay in a certain place, stay in a certain frame of mind long enough that maybe at some point you had a problem with it, maybe some point you were conflicted about the way you were living your life, but over time, you just stayed in that place long enough that it actually goes from discomfort to comfort. It would actually be more uncomfortable for you to get up out of that place, get healing, get redeemed, get restored, than it is to just stay in it, just a little shriveled in your finances, just a little shriveled in your purity, just a little shriveled in your honesty and your integrity. It's not life-threatening. You're not sleeping around. It's just a little less than. Why should I bother Jesus with that? And I think what we need to see, what we need to understand tonight is that Jesus is there, yes, to move mountains. People all the time pray about, I want mountain mover faith. If I just have faith the size of a mustard seed, I'll move a mountain. What if to get that mountain mover faith, you have to have enough faith to move some mustard seeds, to believe God for the daily things, to believe God for the daily bread, for your issues that don't seem that life-threatening. But as you operate in faith, as you stand in faith, you begin to exercise and grow and stretch to where you can move the mountains. That one felt a little unnecessary. I felt like you were just... Where's the band? I'm about to lose control of all this. Sarah, I need some keys before I get heckled some more. So then Jesus, tonight, I really think there's two groups of people. I really feel like God gave me these two words, these two groups of people, and I made mention of them tonight. And I really think all of us will find ourselves in one of these two groups. And I want to just speak to both of those groups. And I really believe that if you're complacent, I have this number one tonight is this. The first group is this. Number one, you're complacent. I can just tell it to you. It's very short. You can write it. There we go. Complacent, stand up, be faith-filled. Stand up. Don't sit down and be false humble. Stand up. Get out of your comfort. and be faith-filled. You notice this story, I love it. Because this man with the shriveled hand, he doesn't even come to Jesus. Jesus sees him in his complacency, tolerating his issue, living less than he was created to, knowing that he doesn't have to live that way, knowing that there's got to be something more, but just complacent. Jesus looks at him, I love it, he says, stand up in front of everyone. No one, if we're honest, likes being put on the spot. It's like when you're at like a party and you like the dance circle forms, right? Also known as my worst nightmare, personal hell. And you got the person that goes into the middle and does their dance move thing, right? And there's like the people on the outside. There's nothing worse than when you're standing there minding your own business, just being a fan, just being a spectator. Oh, get it. And you're just minding your own business. And all of a sudden you realize the person to your right and your left is not standing there anymore, and you're the middle of the circle. In those moments, I just crumple to the ground. I just shrivel up. I run away. I'm like, oh, this isn't funny. I just walk out. Really, guys? Really? You don't like being put on the spot. It's like when you were a student, your teacher would say, anyone know the answer? And they say, Joe? Yes? It's like, do you have an answer? Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Smith. There's just this sign on the wall that says if you want to say something, you have to raise your hand first. And I didn't raise my hand, so I don't know what we're talking about right now. So, no one likes being put on the spot, especially when you don't know how it's going to work out. Even if the potential seems so much better than where you're at. Sometimes when you're just living in this complacent moment, it's just not even worth getting your hopes up. Maybe you've felt that before. It's just not even worth putting in that application to that university. It's just not even worth asking her out. It's just not even worth it. Yeah, maybe I can start living more than, but I'm just complacent to live less than. If that's you, the word from the Lord to you tonight is stand up. Be faith-filled. When Jesus speaks to you, even when you're not sure how it's going to work out, be faith-filled. Stand firm. Be strong and courageous. Don't be complacent. Don't think about, well, I tried that once, it didn't work out. Friend, stand up. Claim the promises of God on your life and be faith-filled. Secondly tonight, maybe you are conflicted. Maybe you are a bit frustrated. Maybe you are going through something. Maybe you do find yourself living less than and feeling like your life is spiraling out of control. If that's you and you're conflicted, my encouragement to you is this. Stretch out. Be faithful. Stretch out. Be faithful. You're conflicted. You're distraught. You're discouraged. When Jesus calls to you, when Jesus says, here's what I want you to do, son. Here's what I want you to do, Father. I'm going to do all the work. This man, look at the text. Where's his great faith? Where's his big statement? Oh, Jesus, Son of God. I know you could. Where is it? All he was faithful to do what God had called him to do. And he knew that God would take care of the rest. All he needed to do was stand up and be faith-filled, stretch out and be faithful, and God was going to take care of the rest.